Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will discuss about the challenges for double-digit growth in India. Why this has become an important current affair? The Union government is targeting for a double-digit economic growth, that is GDP growth. So, double-digit GDP growth is the target of the Union government, and this is in real terms. And attaining a double-digit GDP growth is challenging for India. In this lecture, we will discuss what are the major challenges and also how to overcome these challenges. But before we move on, let us first of all see what is GDP, and also let us see what is real GDP and also nominal GDP. GDP is the monetary value or the money value of all goods and services produced in an economy in a financial year. So, the first point you should remember is it is the monetary value or money value of what? All the final goods and services, which means that intermediate goods and services are not included in GDP. So, this is final goods and services produced in a domestic territory, which means produced within an economy, and that too within a financial year. So, this is GDP, the monetary value of all the final goods and services produced within an economy during a financial year. When we say the final goods and services, here the intermediate goods and services are not counted. Why? Because this is to avoid the problem of double counting. Because intermediate goods, they again is used in the production process. For example, if we consider milk, suppose the milk is brought by a household and he uses this milk in order to make tea in his house and he consumes it or his family consumes it. So, milk for that household, it is a final good because they are consuming it. But if this milk is purchased by a tea stall owner, what happens is that he will use this milk in order to make tea and then he will sell the tea. So, for him it is a intermediate good. So, what happens is in GDP calculation, the value of tea is added. So, the value of tea will include the value of milk as well. But if instead we were adding the value of milk also, what will happen? The value of milk will be double counted. So, in order to avoid this problem of double counting, the intermediate goods are exempted from the calculation of GDP. And next is domestic territory. When we say domestic territory, it means within an economy. So, the domestic territory of an economy includes the political boundaries. Along with the political boundaries, embassies are included. Along with that, military establishments that are located abroad. Also, the ships, aircrafts, fishing vessels, oil rigs, etc. owned by the residents of a country. So, all these are included in order to arrive at the domestic territory. So, whatever production is done inside the domestic territory, only those things are added in the GDP. If we take an example, Sachin Tendulkar is an Indian. If he owns a restaurant in Dubai and that restaurant earns some profit or some production takes place, it is a service. So, the output of the services from the restaurant or the profit of the restaurant will not be added in GDP because it is not produced in our economy. So, that is the basic difference. And next one is financial year. Financial year in India begins on April 1st and ends on 31st March. And again this financial year is divided into 4 quarters. The first quarter is from 1st April to 30th June. The second quarter is from 1st July to 30th September. Third quarter or the Q3 is from October 1st to December 31st. And there is quarter 4, Q4 from January 1st to 31st March. If we see some notifications or reports of the RBI, we will see these are published in various quarters. These reports are with regard to some quarters. So, keep in mind there are 4 quarters in a financial year. Now, coming to GDP at current prices and constant prices. First of all, coming to current prices. Under GDP at current prices, the goods and services are valued at the same year's prices or the actual transactions would take place at the current price. So, this is same year prices. And coming to the GDP at constant prices, Under GDP at constant prices, the goods and services are valued at base year prices. And this is done in order to estimate the economic growth. So coming to the base year, what is the criteria for selection of a base year? The base year is selected from a normal year. The base year should be a normal year. Normal year means without much fluctuations in the inflation rate. So inflation will be normal in a normal year, and also relevant data should be available for that particular year. Then the year is considered to be a base year. This is the criteria for selecting a base year. So what is the major difference is that at GDP at current prices, the same year prices are considered, and this can be inflated prices. So inflation is considered, or the rates are affected by inflation at GDP at current prices. But when it comes to GDP at constant prices, inflation is normal because the base year has been selected from an year wherein which the inflation rates are normal. To understand GDP at current prices and GDP at constant prices in a better manner, let us consider an example. Let us take 3 financial years: 2011, 12, 2012, 13, 2013, 14. So these are 3 financial years. Now let us take the production or the output. Consider the production was 100 units in 2011-12, again 100 units in 2012-13, and coming to 13-14 it is 150 units. And now let us take the current year prices. The current year prices for 2011-12 is 10, for 2012-13 is 15, and for 2013-14 is again 15. Now coming to the base year prices. The base year price will be a fixed price, that is 10, 10 and 10 for the 3 years. Now coming to the calculation of GDP. There are 2 types of GDP, that is constant price, that is the real GDP, and current price, that is the nominal GDP. So at current price we get nominal GDP, and at constant price we get the real GDP. Now how to calculate the GDP? Production into constant, that is base year price, will give you constant GDP or real GDP. Production 100 into base year is 1000. So real GDP is 1000. Coming to current or nominal GDP, production into current, that is again 1000. Secondly, 2012-13, production into current is nominal GDP, that will be 1500. Production into base year will be real GDP, that is again 1000. Coming to 2013-14, production 150 into current will give you nominal GDP, that is 2250. Again production into base year will give you real GDP. Now coming back to the example, in 2012-13 we will see that the production is 100 units and the current price is 15 and base year price is 10. So multiplying the production with base year prices, we will get constant or real GDP. It is 1000 units. But when it comes to current or nominal GDP, this is 1500. What is the reason? Because the current prices are high, or it is 15 rupees. But see here, the production is the same, which means that there is no improvement in the output. Output remains the same, but the GDP has increased. What is the reason for that? It is due to inflation. Inflation means a persistent rise in the prices of commodities in the market. And here we will see that the current prices has increased, and that is the reason there is an increase in nominal GDP. But when it comes to real GDP, the GDP is lesser than the nominal GDP because the base year prices are considered. Inflation is not calculated. Now again coming to 2013-14, the production has increased to 150 units. So therefore the constant or the real GDP has also increased. So when production increases, the real GDP increases. So basically the difference between real GDP and nominal GDP is that the nominal GDP can increase due to 2 things. One is due to increase in production. Here in this example 2013-14, we will see that the nominal GDP has increased because one reason is increase in prices, second reason is increase in production. So an increase in production will lead to an increase in nominal GDP. Also, an increase in the rate of inflation, or when the prices increases, this will again increase the nominal GDP. So, two factors can increase the nominal GDP: output and inflation. But when it comes to real GDP, it can increase only if the production increases. From 2013-14 example, we will understand that. So, real GDP can increase only if there is an increase in production. So, with an increase in inflation, the real GDP will not increase. Hope this concept is very clear for you. This is a very necessary understanding you must have. You should clearly be able to differentiate between real GDP and nominal GDP. And when it comes to our topic, that is, see, the government is targeting for a double-digit GDP growth in real terms, which means that the government is trying to achieve double-digit GDP growth in real GDP, which means that the production should necessarily increase. With an increase in the price or with an increase in inflation, the nominal GDP may increase. But the target of government is to increase the real GDP, which means inflation should not be the reason for the increase in GDP, but it should be an increase in production. So, definitely production must be the engine, or increasing production must be the engine that drives our economy to a double-digit growth in terms of real GDP. Now, let us see what are the challenges that we are facing in order to achieve this double-digit growth. First of all, the high base that we have, which means our economy is very big in terms of size. We have a very large economy. Therefore, the base is very high. So, growth should happen in a broad-based manner. So, because of this high base, it is very difficult to attain this growth level. Secondly, the reason is inflation, particularly food and fuel inflation. These two are highly volatile in nature. Coming to the food inflation, agricultural growth is stagnant and majority of our population is highly dependent on agriculture. And if only this sector improves, or if there is an improvement in the agricultural sector, only then there will be growth in the majority of the economy. And also because of increased prices of food commodities or food inflation, the spending increases. When there is inflation in the economy, the prices will increase and therefore the spending also increases. And food is an essential commodity. And when the spending on food increases, it affects the saving patterns. Savings will reduce. Again, with a decrease in savings, the interest rates will increase. And with high interest rates, the investment in the economy will come down, and this will affect the growth and development of the economy. Again, coming to fuel inflation, we are highly dependent on imports for our fuel requirements. And when the prices of fuel are high, what really happens is that it impacts most of the sectors of the economy. So, the cost of production in most of the sectors will increase. This will increase the prices of commodities in the market, leading to cost push inflation in the economy. Under cost push inflation, two things happen: taking price on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis. The demand curve DD and the supply curve SS. So this is the equilibrium point. And during cost push inflation, the prices will increase and also the quantity will come down. So it is double impact. One is increase in prices. Second, the quantity or output of an economy will come down. So this will affect the double-digit growth or growth of an economy. And third is stability. If we have to attain a double-digit growth, what is necessary? At least 3-4 years there should be a stable growth, and this stable growth must be at high rates also in all the sectors: agriculture, industry, services, etc. So high growth rate which is also stable in all sectors is necessary for a double-digit growth, and this is quite challenging for an economy like India. Next challenge is an increase in the non-performing assets or the NPA. NPA means non-performing assets. If a loan becomes a non-performing asset if the principal or the interest is due for 90 days or above. So, an increase in non-performing asset means that the banks are not able to provide further loans because of accumulation of bad loans. So, this will reduce the capital in the economy. So reduction in capital will lead to reduction in investment, and when the investment in an economy reduces, this will affect the growth. The growth also will come down. So these are the major challenges our economy is facing in order to attain a double-digit growth. Now, what can be done in order to overcome these challenges? First of all, agriculture needs to be boosted, because first reason, agriculture and all other sectors are interconnected. Agriculture provides raw materials for service sector, for industry, manufacturing. For all sectors, agriculture is an important factor. So, agricultural sector and all other sectors are interconnected, and for that reason, if agriculture is boosted, all other sectors will be impacted. Secondly, agriculture contributes 15% of share in GDP. But the proportion of population that is dependent on agriculture is more than 50%. So, considering the proportion or percentage of population who is dependent on agriculture, if this GDP contribution gets increased, these people also will be impacted, or they will also grow. So the per capita income will increase, and with an increase in per capita income, savings will happen. Savings will increase the capital formation or investment in an economy, and it will lead to growth in the economy. Thirdly, most of the agriculturalists are from rural India. So, if the agricultural sector is boosted, it means that rural India will develop. The rural spending will increase. With an increase in rural spending, the standard of living of rural areas will increase, and this will lead to development. Fourth one is productivity and food inflation. In India, agriculture is highly dependent on monsoon. Also, we do not have enough technological advancement when it comes to agriculture. So, if all these areas get some improvement, the productivity will increase, the farmers' income will increase. Also, there will be sufficient commodities available in the market if the productivity increases. This will reduce the food inflation, and if the rate of inflation or food inflation comes down, this will increase the rate of growth in the economy, or the GDP growth rate will increase. Second one is building up industry. The industrial sector needs to be given more concentration. Manufacturing and construction sectors, they have the potential for growth, or they can take the economy forwards. So these two sectors have high potential for growth. Again, coming to the bond markets. So bond markets also needs to grow. Why? Because funding is very necessary for growth, and the bond markets can provide funding which can help in the growth process of the economy. So reviving the bond markets is also necessary. And coming to the NPA issue, that is non-performing assets, this also needs to be resolved. So if NPA issues are resolved, this will reduce the bad debts or bad loans in the banks. And if the rate of bad debts come down, this will increase the capital that is available. So with increased capital, this will increase the investment, and investment will increase the growth in the economy. Another important thing is affordable housing. And if an emphasis is given on affordable housing, it can accelerate growth. How is this possible? Because affordable housing or housing sector is linked to many other industries like the steel, cement, machinery, metals, etc. And if affordable housing is given emphasis, the housing sector will improve, and this will automatically improve the industries like steel, cement, machinery, metals, etc. So this also needs to be given emphasis. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page. You can find all the previous economic survey lectures and other current affair lectures on my Facebook page.